Welcome back, everyone, to Chat Like a Native, the show where we try to help you sound more natural, more confident, really precise when you're using English. Today, we are diving deep into something really interesting. We're looking at two little words, tiny words, actually, words you hear constantly, words you probably use yourself all the time, thing and stuff.
Absolutely everywhere.
Exactly. But here's the twist. They might actually be making your communication, less clear, less impactful, maybe even, dare I say, less professional sometimes.
It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? Because they're so common.
It really does. But stick with us, because by the end of this deep dive, you're going to have this amazing toolkit of alternatives, specific, impactful words. We're calling them power nouns.
I like that term, power nouns.
Yeah. And these power nouns, they'll instantly make your English sound sharper, more professional, Whether you're just chatting, writing an email, giving a presentation, it's really about moving past that vague feeling, to actually say exactly what you mean. So if you've ever felt like your English wasn't quite hitting the mark, this is definitely for you.
Absolutely. And it's true. Thing and stuff are they're omnipresent in everyday chat. You can't escape them. They're convenient, no doubt, like little shortcuts.
Totally. Linguistic placeholders.
Exactly. But for intermediate learners, or really anyone wanting to sound more articulate, more thoughtful, moving beyond them it's pretty essential. It's that jump from just being generally understood to being precisely understood, from sounding okay to sounding, really confident and clear. The everyday challenge, why thing and stuff fall short.
Okay, so let's first acknowledge why we all use them. Because we do, right? Myself included. You know those moments?
Yeah.
Hey, can you grab that thing off the counter? Or,
Okay.
I've got so much stuff to sort out today. Exactly. In those quick, casual chats, they work. They keep things moving. You don't have to pause and search for the perfect word.
Right. And if the context is super obvious, maybe between friends who know exactly what you mean, they do the job.
They really are just quick fillers, aren't they? Plugging a gap when your brain's moving fast.
They are. They're the path of least resistance, linguistically speaking.
Yeah.
Which is why we naturally reach for them.
Yeah.
But that convenience, it definitely comes with a price tag, especially when you want your communication to be clearer, stronger. Really, there are three main problems with relying too heavily on these vague words. It boils down to a lack of clarity, weaker impact, and sometimes, it can affect your professional image.
Okay, let's break that down. Lack of clarity first.
Right. So when you say, I need that thing, or maybe what about the stuff we discussed yesterday, you're essentially making your listener do all the heavy lifting.
You mean they have to figure out what you mean?
Exactly. Their brain immediately stops processing your message and starts trying to decode it. What specific thing is he talking about? Or which stuff does she mean?
Okay. And that leads to...
Well, it almost always leads to follow-up questions, right? What thing? Which stuff? And that back and forth, it's not just annoying.
It slows everything down.
Hugely. Imagine you're in an important meeting, maybe discussing a project. If someone keeps saying the thing we need to fix or the stuff in the budget, you waste so much time just clarifying.
Yeah, I can see that. Frustrating.
It really is. It kills efficiency. And worse, it can lead to actual misunderstandings if the listener guesses wrong about what thing or stuff you meant.
So that one little vague word could actually cause real problems down the line.
It absolutely can. Think about it. That constant need for clarification. Does it just slow things down? Or does it maybe affect how a team works together? Does it impact confidence?
That's a good question. I could see how it might. If you're always having to ask, what do you mean? Maybe you start to feel like the other person isn't being very clear or hasn't thought it through properly.
Exactly. It forces everyone else to do extra mental work. Over time, that can build frustration. It can even subtly undermine trust, like you said. Am I confident this person knows exactly what Reeds is doing if they can only call it the thing? Precision signals respect for your listener's time and intelligence.
Okay, so clarity is a big one. What was the second problem? Weak impact.
Yes, weak impact. Think about more formal situations now. Writing an important email, maybe a report, or giving a presentation. In those contexts, vague nouns they fall flat. They don't grab your audience. They don't paint a picture. They don't make key points stand out.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine you're presenting research findings. If you say, we discovered a really important thing, it just lands with a thud, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty underwhelming.
Right. Now compare that to saying, we uncovered a critical revelation in our research. Or maybe, this represents a significant breakthrough. See the difference?
Much stronger, more memorable.
Exactly. The specific noun, the power noun, carries weight, It creates a vivid image. It makes your message persuasive, engaging, something people actually remember. Thing and stuff are like linguistic cotton balls. They fill space, but they just absorb any potential punch or impact, no substance.
Linguistic cotton balls, I like that. Absorbing all the impact. So how do we avoid that? How do we make our words count, make them dense with meaning instead of just filling space?
It starts with being conscious about your word choices. Aim for words that are active, descriptive, sometimes even emotionally resonant if it fits. Think of each word choice as a small tool. A vague word is like a flimsy plastic lever. A power noun, that's a solid steel crowbar. It can actually move something. It's about making every word pull its weight.
Got it. Okay, clarity, impact. And the third one was professional impressions.
This is crucial, especially in academic settings, the workplace. Anywhere precision really matters. If you constantly rely on thing and stuff, it can unfortunately signal a couple of things to your audience. It might suggest you have limited vocabulary. Ouch. Yeah. Or even worse, it could imply a lack of attention to detail, maybe even a bit of, well, laziness in how you communicate.
That doesn't sound good.
It's not about judging someone. It's purely about perception. But those perceptions, they can have real consequences. Think about a job interview, a client pitch, a negotiation. Every word counts. If you're explaining a complex idea or a new strategy and you keep saying this thing or that stuff, it can subtly undermine your credibility.
So people might doubt your expertise, even if you know your stuff. Know your subject well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They might subconsciously question how thorough you've been because your language lacks the precision they expect from an expert. So this really brings up a critical question for all of us, doesn't it? How do we break this very common habit? How do we start sounding more sophisticated, more credible? Just more effective overall. 2, unpacking power nouns. What are they and why do they matter?
Right. We've definitely laid out the problem, the potential downsides, so let's pivot to the solution, which, as you might guess, involves these power nouns we mentioned. Think of them as the antidote to all that vagueness, like precision tools you can add to your language toolkit.
That's a great way to put it.
Simply put, they're just specific descriptive nouns that you swap in for those vague placeholders like thing and stuff.
Yeah.
It's not always about using fancy long words.
Not at all.
It's about using the right word, the word that fits the context perfectly. So for instance, instead of just saying thing, you might think, okay, is this a recommendation, a strategy, maybe even an artifact? It completely depends on what you're actually talking about. And when you're about to say stuff, just pause for a split second. Could you say equipment instead? Or materials? Or inventory? The difference it makes is huge, right? Instantly clearer.
Instantly. Yeah. These aren't just synonyms. They are, like you said, precision instruments. And the change they bring about is pretty remarkable. It's not just about sounding better, though that's part of it. It fundamentally changes how your message lands, how effective you are. There are really 3 main benefits to getting comfortable with power nouns, and they kind of build on each other.
Okay, let's hear it.
First, the most obvious one. They convey precise meaning. No more guesswork. When you consciously pick a power noun, you're pinpointing exactly what you mean. So those frustrating follow-up questions, what thing, which stuff, they just disappear.
Right, because you've already answered it.
Exactly. If you say, we need to discuss the proposal, everyone knows you mean a specific document outlining a plan. If you'd said, we need to discuss the thing, who knows what they're picturing? A meeting, an idea, a problem.
Could be anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
So this specificity makes communication way more efficient, more accurate. You spend less time clarifying, more time actually moving forward. It's like using a laser pointer instead of, a big floodlight. Hits the exact spot.
That's a perfect analogy. Cuts right through the fuzziness. Saves everyone mental energy. Can you think of a quick real-world example where that precision really paid off?
Oh, sure. Imagine the tech team, right? A developer might casually say, yeah, I'm working on the new login thing.
Okay, super vague.
Totally vague. Is it a new feature? A bug fix? A whole redesign? But if they say, I'm developing the new user authentication module, boom, everyone knows it's a specific technical part.
Ah, okay. Much clearer.
Or, I'm fixing the login bug. Again, crystal clear. That precision saves loads of time, prevents confusion, stops people working on the wrong thing because everyone's aligned from the start.
Makes sense. So that clarity leads to the second benefit.
It does, which is strengthening communication. Power nouns create a much more vivid mental picture for your listener or reader. If you say, the artifact was found at the dig site, Your listener instantly pictures something specific, right? An object from the past, unearthed.
You can almost see it.
Right. But if you just said the thing was found, the image is fuzzy,
Yeah.
generic, uninspired.
Flat.
Flat, exactly. That enhanced imagery makes your communication way more engaging.
Yeah.
Your words aren't just processed, they're experienced, they're seen, maybe even felt. That makes your message stickier, more impactful, more persuasive.
So if our words paint clearer pictures, how does that help us practically? Does it make us more convincing, for example?
Absolutely. When your audience can visualize what you're talking about, they connect more deeply. Think about a sales pitch describing features or capabilities is miles better than talking about good things.
Right.
Or telling a story. Vibrant nouns pull your audience in. Teaching something precise terms help concepts actually land and be remembered. It's about building a richer mental model for your listener, making your points resonate long after you stop talking.
Okay, that's powerful. And the third benefit ties into the professional world again.
Yes, and this is huge in professional settings. Power nouns boost your professional tone. Using precise language shows off your lexical range. Basically, it shows you have a good vocabulary.
Okay.
And it signals something else really important. Attention to detail. It suggests you're meticulous, you're careful. This isn't about showing off. It's about demonstrating competence.
Right. It projects confidence.
It absolutely projects confidence and credibility. When you use the right power noun, it shows you've thought carefully about your words, which implies you've thought carefully about your ideas. Go back to that job interview example. If you describe your past work using precise terms, manage project timelines, develop strategic initiatives, analyze market trends, it sounds so much more competent than just saying you did a lot of things or handled all this stuff.
Night and day difference.
It really is. And what's amazing is how this relatively simple vocabulary swap, choosing a precise word over a vague one, can genuinely elevate how people see you, your capabilities. It's a small change with potentially massive ripple effects on your career, your interactions, everything. The 3, your guide to choosing the right power now.
Okay, I'm sold.
Thank
The
you.
benefits are crystal clear. But now for the tricky part, right? How do we actually choose the right power noun? Because like you said, it's not just about knowing a list of words. It's about context, nuance. Picking the perfect word for that specific moment, it feels like it requires a kind of instinct. So how do we develop that? What are the guidelines?
You've nailed it. It is about informed selection, not just random substitution, and context is absolutely king. But we can make that instinct more concrete. There are basically 4 key strategies you can use.
Okay, let's have them.
The first one, and maybe the most powerful starting point, is just to ask yourself, what exactly?
Okay.
Treat that as your internal trigger. When you feel yourself about to say thing or stuff, just pause, just for a split second, and ask, what exactly am I referring to here? So if thing is a document, don't stop there. Push yourself.
Yeah.
What kind of document? Is it a report, a proposal, a contract, a memo? Each one tells a totally different story.
Different implications for each.
Huge implications. This little mental exercise forces you to specify, to move past the lazy placeholder, and actually pinpoint the entity. It's about building precision into your thinking before the words even come out.
That mental pause. It sounds simple, but probably takes practice to make it automatic. What does that feel like at first? A bit clunky.
Oh, definitely. At first, it might feel like a little speed bump in your thinking. You might even catch yourself saying thing and then correcting yourself either out loud or in your head.
Yeah.
I need that report. But honestly, with consistent practice, that pause becomes almost invisible. Your brain just starts reaching for the more precise term automatically, like muscle memory. You're basically rewiring your vocabulary habits.
Okay, so ask what exactly. What's the second strategy?
The second is to consider the function and the context. What does this thing do? Where does it belong? That often points you to the best noun. Let's say stuff refers to tools.
Yep.
Okay, but what kind of tools and where? If they're in a kitchen, maybe utensils. If they're in a science lab, perhaps apparatus or instrumentation.
Okay. Much more specific.
Right. If it's your clothes and toiletries in a suitcase, possessions or personal effects sounds much better than just stuff. Each of those nouns, utensils, apparatus, possessions, fits a specific domain. You might also think about connotation, like gear often suggests specialized equipment for an activity, like camping gear or climbing gear. Equipment sounds broader, maybe more technical, like factory equipment. Thinking about the job it does or its natural environment helps you narrow it down.
Got it. Function and context. What's number 3?
Number 3 ties in closely. Match the formality. This is all about register, choosing words that fit the situation and your audience.
Okay, so knowing when to be casual and when to be formal.
Exactly. Using gear might be totally fine chatting with friends about a weekend trip. Did you pack the camping gear? But if you're writing a formal email to a supplier about industrial machinery, you definitely say equipment.
Right. Gear would sound weird there.
It would sound out of place, maybe unprofessional. Similarly, in a safety report, you'd probably write, ensure all safety equipment is inspected, not ensure all safety gear is checked. The second sounds a bit too casual for the seriousness of the context. Picking the wrong level of formality can make you sound awkward. Even if the word itself isn't technically wrong, it's about hitting the right tone.
This is really highlighting the nuance, isn't it? It's not just finding a specific noun, but the best one for that exact moment. Which I guess leads perfectly into something you mentioned, collocations. That sounds like a key part of making it sound natural?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
This is where, like you said, the real magic happens for sounding natural. Collocations are just words that like to hang out together.
Okay. Word buddies.
Word buddies, exactly. They're the natural pairings that native speakers use all the time without even thinking about it. And when you start using them, your English sounds smoother, more fluent, more, well, native-like. Less like you're just pulling individual words from a dictionary.
Okay, give us some examples. How does this work with power nouns?
Sure. Let's take some common ones. In an office context, you don't just make a thing. You might draft a proposal or draft a memo. The verb draft loves to hang out with proposal and memo.
Okay, I see.
Or research. You don't usually do research stuff. You conduct research or maybe carry out research. Conduct and carry out are the typical partners for research in more formal settings.
Right.
Think about managing stock. You don't update this stuff. You update the inventory or update the database. And legal documents, you don't look at the thing. You review the contract or examine the agreement. These specific verb-noun pairs just sound right together.
So learning these collocations, it's not just about sounding natural. Does it also add to the precision we were talking about? Like, does conduct research imply more than just do research stuff?
It absolutely does. It often implies a more formal, systematic process. Conduct research sounds more rigorous than do research stuff. So yes, collocations often carry subtle layers of meaning related to standard procedures or contexts. And the brilliant thing is, once you start learning these pairings, they become almost automatic. They help lock those new power nouns into your active vocabulary, making your speech and writing not just clearer, but also more effortless and idiomatic. Connecting this back, mastering collocations helps you move beyond knowing single words to understanding how words work together in natural patterns. That's a huge step towards real fluency. It's not just what you say, but how you say it naturally. 4. Building your power noun toolkit. Practical swaps.
Okay, this is fantastic. So let's get really practical now. What does this mean for you, the listener, right now? It means we've basically put together a kind of, well, a cheat sheet.
Exactly. A handy reference guide.
Yeah. A curated list of common situations where you might use thing or stuff, and some really strong power noun alternatives you can start using immediately. Now, the idea isn't to memorize this whole list tonight, right? That would be way too much.
Definitely not. The key is a focused approach. Build your toolkit gradually. Let's walk through some common scenarios in the power nouns that fit, with examples to make it clear.
Perfect. Let's start with the biggest offender, thing.
Right. Thing is the ultimate placeholder. It can mean almost anything. So first category, when thing refers to an idea or a concept, instead of saying, that thing we talked about.
Which could be anything.
Exactly. You can use concept. Let's really nail down the core concept here for a general idea. Proposal. Did you get a chance to read the marketing proposal for a formal plan? Recommendation. The main recommendation is to start small for specific advice. Principle. It violates a basic principle of fairness for a fundamental rule or truth. Strategy. We need a clearer strategy for the next quarter, for a plan of action. See how each one adds a specific flavor.
Yeah, totally. Much more informative. Okay, what about when thing is a physical object?
Good question. When thing is a physical object, especially if you want to sound a bit more formal or technical, try these. Device. This new handheld device measures air quality, usually electronic or mechanical. Instrument. The surgeon used a delicate instrument, often for precision, scientific, or medical. Artifact. The museum displayed a rare Roman artifact, historical or cultural object. Component. We're waiting for a replacement component for the engine, a part of something bigger. Apparatus.
Right.
The chemistry lab uses complex apparatus, often complex equipment for a task.
Again, much clearer than just thing. Okay, one more for a thing. What about events?
Right. When thing refers to an event or an occasion, you can really elevate your language. Session. We've scheduled a training session for Friday. A dedicated period for an activity. Meeting. The emergency meeting lasted 2 hours. A formal gathering for discussion. Celebration. Their wedding celebration was beautiful. A festive event. Conference. I'm presenting at the international conference. A large, formal meeting. Workshop. I learned a lot at the photography workshop. A hands-on training session. These instantly tell your listener what kind of gathering you mean.
The difference is incredible when you see them laid out like that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's tackle the other big one, stuff, which sometimes feels even vaguer than thing.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's like this big amorphous blob of, stuff. Okay, so when stuff refers to general items, particularly in a work or operational context, think about materials. Do we have enough raw materials for the next batch? Substances used to make things. Supplies. Can someone order more office supplies? Consumable items for operations. Inventory. We need to do an end-of-year inventory count. Goods held for sale or use. Commodities. The price of agricultural commodities is rising. Raw materials, often traded. Provisions. They packed enough provisions for the expedition. Necessary supplies, especially food, drink. Again, materials, supplies, inventory. They each have a distinct meaning in business.
Very useful. What about when stuff means like information? We say that a lot casually.
We do. Did you get the stuff I sent you? Instead, try. Data. The preliminary data looks promising. Facts, stats for analysis. Details. Let me send you the specific details. Individual pieces of information. Information. Can you gather all the relevant information? A broader term for knowledge. Insights. The user feedback provided valuable insights. Deeper understanding. Observations. Findings. The committee presented its findings yesterday. Results of an investigation. This is crucial for sounding professional when discussing analysis or reports.
Absolutely. Okay, last one for stuff. What about belongings, like personal things?
Right. Instead of just your stuff, which can sound a bit dismissive sometimes, you can use belongings. Please collect all your personal belongings before leaving. General term for owned items. Possessions. He insured his valuable possessions. Often implies items of value. Luggage. My luggage got lost on the flight. Bags for travel. Personal effects. The form asks for a list of personal effects, a more formal, often official context. These just sound more considerate and precise.
Okay, that's a fantastic starting toolkit. So the advice isn't to memorize all of these right now?
Not at all. Please don't. The strategy is pick maybe 1 or 2 categories that you know you struggle with. Where do you most often rely on thing or stuff? Focus there first. Try to consciously swap in just 1 or 2 power nouns from that category in your next conversation, your next email. Even just thinking it through in your head helps. Make it a small, manageable goal. And that really raises the question for you, the listener. How can you practice this effectively so it sticks, so it becomes natural, not just another grammar rule to worry about? V. Beyond single words, expanding your expression.
That is the key question, and we promise we'll get to specific practice tips very soon. But first, there's one more layer to this precision thing we should touch on. Sometimes maybe even one perfect power noun isn't quite enough, right? Or perhaps using just a single, very specific noun feels a bit abrupt, or maybe too formal for the flow.
That's a really insightful point, yes. Sometimes you need just a little bit more to be perfectly clear, but without writing a whole long sentence.
So what's the solution then?
It's often about using these brief, descriptive noun phrases. Think of them as power nouns. With a little bit of built-in context, they add clarity without adding clutter.
Okay, like mini descriptions.
Exactly. Miniature summaries packed right into the noun slot. So, for example, instead of that super vague phrase, that thing we talked about, which could honestly refer to almost anything.
Right. Totally ambiguous.
You could say, our previous discussion points, see? It immediately tells the listener you're referring to specific items from a past conversation. It anchors the reference.
Ah, okay. Much clearer. What's another example?
How about the stuff in the box? In casual chat, maybe. But if you're in logistics or assembly, you might say the boxed components.
Boxed components. Okay, that tells me more.
All right. It implies they're parts of something larger and they're specifically packed that way. It's concise, but informative about the nature and state of the items.
I like that. Concise, but informative.
Or think about instructions. Instead of saying all the things you need, which is a bit overwhelming and vague.
Yeah, like what things?
Exactly. You could specify all required resources.
Yeah.
That signals these aren't just random items. They are essential elements, maybe tools, info people needed for a task. Required adds that layer of necessity.
Okay, that's much stronger.
Let's try a couple more. Instead of pointing and saying, that thing on your desk, you could be more specific, like the draft report on your desk, if it's a document, or the prototype device, if it's a gadget.
Right. Instantly recognizable.
Or instead of, I need to do some stuff for the project, which tells your manager almost nothing.
Yeah, not helpful.
You could say, I need to finalize the project deliverables, or I need to compile the project documentation. Much more concrete and professional. These little expansions are super useful. They add just enough detail to kill any ambiguity, keeping everyone on the same page without making your sentences long and complicated. Precision without the waffle.
6. When vague words are okay, context is king. Okay, so we've hammered home the importance of precision, power nouns, descriptive phrases. But wait a minute. Are we saying you should never say thing or stuff ever again? Like, completely banish them?
No, definitely not. That would be unnatural, maybe even impossible.
Okay, good. Because that felt a bit extreme.
It would be. This brings us to a really important point. Context is king. Vague words aren't inherently evil. The real skill is knowing when precision is your friend and when a little bit of vagueness is perfectly fine, even preferable.
Right. It's about being appropriate for the situation.
Exactly. Language isn't just about strict rules. It's about effective communication in a specific context. Think about casual conversation with close friends or family. If you're going camping with a buddy and you ask, did you bring the stuff? You both know the stuff means the tent and the sleeping bag.
That's totally fair.
It's perfectly fine. Trying to be overly formal there, did you remember to pack the requisite camping equipment and personal items? Would sound ridiculous.
Yeah, definitely weird.
It would break the flow, sound unnatural, maybe even a bit pretentious in that relaxed setting. Informal chat relies heavily on shared understanding, and sometimes these vague words are just faster and more natural.
Okay, so casual chat is one exception. What else?
Well, you also have cultural and register considerations. Some dialects or social groups might use thing and stuff more freely, and that's just part of their natural way of speaking. And think about creative writing. An author might deliberately use thing or stuff to make a character sound authentic. Maybe they're meant to be laid back or perhaps a bit inarticulate. It's a stylistic choice.
Okay, to build character.
Precisely. Or in song lyrics sometimes for rhythm or a casual vibe.
So it really depends. Can we maybe lay out some general guidelines, like when should you definitely avoid them and when is it okay?
Sure, we can think of it like a spectrum. Informal emails chats, like Slack messages with colleagues you know well, and occasional stuff or thing where the context is clear, generally fine, keeps it friendly. We'll send the project stuff over later. Probably okay internally. Academic writing, formal reports, business proposals, client communication, this is where you need to be vigilant. Aim for maximum precision. Avoid thing and stuff entirely if possible. Your credibility relies on it. The research stuff is a definite no-no in a published paper.
Right. High stakes, high precision.
Exactly. Storytelling, creative writing. Here, it's a balancing act. Use vague words if it fits a character's voice realistically, but use precise, descriptive language in the narration to paint a vivid picture for the reader. You need both authenticity and clarity.
That makes sense. It's an art.
It really is. And the key takeaway here is that effective communication isn't just about being correct. It's about being appropriate for the audience, the purpose, the situation. The goal isn't to erase thing and stuff, but to become a more conscious communicator. Someone who chooses precision when it matters most, but can also use language naturally and flexibly when the context allows. It's about wielding your words intentionally. 7, tracking your progress, making it stick.
Okay, I love that distinction. Not rigid correctness, but intentional, appropriate communication. So we get the why, the what, the how, even the when not to. Now for the million-dollar question. How do we actually make this stick? How do we turn this knowledge into a real lasting habit? Because just listening to us talk about it isn't enough, right?
Absolutely not. Knowledge is only potential power. Practice is what makes it real. To truly internalize this and make power nouns part of your automatic language toolkit, you need consistent, deliberate practice.
Okay, give us some actionable steps. What can listeners start doing today?
All right, 3 concrete activities you can try. First up, journal reflections.
Okay, like a language diary.
Sort of. After your day, maybe after a meeting, a chat, even just watching TV, take literally 2 minutes. Jot down any times you noticed yourself using thing or stuff. Or maybe times you heard someone else use them vaguely. No judgment, just awareness. Then, the crucial part. Challenge yourself. What could you have said instead? What was the more precise power noun or phrase for that situation?
Ah, so you actively replay it with better words.
Exactly. That
Mhm.
self-awareness and immediate correction is gold for breaking old habits. You start seeing your own patterns.
I like that. It feels proactive but not stressful. What's number two?
Number 2 is harnessing the power of others. Peer feedback.
Okay. Asking for help?
Yep. Find a trusted friend, maybe a language partner, a tutor, even a patient colleague. Ask them explicitly, hey, could you gently point it out if you hear me using thing or stuff vaguely?
Mm.
Give them permission to highlight it in your writing drafts, too. Sometimes we're just blind to our own habits. An outside perspective can catch things you completely miss.
That takes a bit of vulnerability, but I can see how valuable it would be.
Hugely valuable. That feedback loop really speeds things up. Plus, it adds a bit of accountability, which helps motivation.
Okay. Journaling, peer feedback. What's the third one?
The third one is very hands-on. Self-recording.
Ooh. Okay. Listening to yourself.
Yeah. Pick any topic you like, summarize your day, review a movie, describe your breakfast, whatever. Record yourself talking for just 2 or 3 minutes. Then, the important part, listen back. Or even better, transcribe what you said. You can use free tools online or just type it out.
Okay. Got the recording, got the text. Then what?
Then you revise it. Go through that transcript with a metaphorical red pen. Hunt down every single thing, every single stuff, and consciously replace each one with a better, more precise word or phrase.
Ah, so you're directly editing your own speech.
Exactly. It gives you incredibly direct, tangible practice. You see the before and after right there in black and white. You hear the difference. It's incredibly effective for reinforcing the learning.
Those are three really solid, practical methods. Any final advice for listeners on staying motivated? It sounds like a process.
It is a process. So first, be kind to yourself. Celebrate the small wins. If you swap out just one thing for a power noun today, that's progress. Consistency beats trying to be perfect overnight. And second, keep reminding yourself why you're doing it. Connect it back to your goals. Maybe it's acing that presentation, writing clearer emails, or just feeling more confident in conversations. Visualize that success because really, if you connect all these practice methods, the common thread is deliberate, consistent effort. It's about actively engaging with your own language, noticing, reflecting, refining. You're literally carving out new pathways in your brain. And that dedicated practice is truly the only way to make these power nouns feel natural and effortless over time. Outro.
And that feels like a perfect place to wrap up this deep dive for Chat Like a Native. What a journey. We started with those sneaky little words, thing and stuff, and saw how they can trip us up.
The clarity killers.
Exactly. And we moved all the way to discovering the amazing precision and impact of power nouns. We talked about what they are, how to pick the right one, got that handy toolkit of swaps.
And even when it's okay not to use them.
Right. Context is key. And hopefully everyone listening feels equipped with some solid strategies to make this a real habit. Because the payoff is huge, isn't it? Clearer meaning, more confidence, better professional image. It really touches every part of communication.
It really does. And as you keep practicing, keep expanding that vocabulary and your feel for context, just remember, every word choice matters. Every word has the potential to make your message stronger, clearer, more resonant. So maybe think about this. How much more powerful could your message be if every single word was pulling its weight, turning those vague things into sharp concepts, vivid details? What could you achieve with that extra clarity in your very next conversation or email?
A brilliant thought to end on. What could you achieve? Thank you so much for joining us today on Chat Like a Native. Keep practicing, keep exploring the language, and we'll catch you next time with more insights to help you sound natural and competent in English. Bye for now.